Presented by Caltech. In their struggle to restore regular and restful sleep, insomniacs and the jet-lagged alike often reach for melatonin supplements. But although biologists have long suspected that melatonin plays an important role in the regulation of sleep, they haven't been able to prove it, until now. Led by Assistant Professor of Biology David Prober, a Caltech research team is the first to demonstrate that our body's melatonin production is required to fall asleep and stay asleep at night.
Melatonin was thought to regulate sleep because it's produced at high levels at night and low levels during the day. And if you give people supplemental melatonin, in some cases, but not all cases, it can help to promote sleep. However, the problem with that is that while there are many studies showing that melatonin can induce sleep, there's also many studies showing that it has no effect. And so it's actually really controversial in the sleep field whether melatonin regulates sleep and how significant of a sleep regulator it is. And our study suggests that animals that don't make melatonin only sleep half as much at night, suggesting that it actually has a really important role in promoting nighttime sleep.
To determine that melatonin production regulates nighttime sleep, Prober's team used zebrafish, whose sleep patterns are remarkably like that of humans.
Zebrafish are a relatively newly established model system, and they have several advantages. So first, they're a vertebrate animal, so their brains are structurally similar to ours, but they're vastly simpler. So for example, the neurons that are thought to regulate sleep in mammals, typically we have several thousand of each of these types of neurons in our brain, and the zebrafish larvae that we study typically have 5 to 10 of these neurons. So it's a vastly simpler system. On top of that, the larvae that we study are optically transparent, so it's very easy to watch these neurons as they develop and to manipulate them while they're behaving. And then another big strength for using zebrafish to study sleep and circadian rhythms is that they're diurnal like us, whereas the nocturnal rodents, so mice, that most people study are nocturnal, and so it's not clear if the circadian clock regulates sleep in a nocturnal animal the same way that it regulates sleep in a diurnal animal. So zebrafish do make melatonin. We have tools to make mutants in zebrafish, and so what we did is we created zebrafish with a mutation in an enzyme that's required to make melatonin. And what we found is that in these mutant zebrafish, that they slept about half as much as controls as their wild-type siblings at night, and it took them about twice as long to fall asleep at night. So this suggests that melatonin that your body normally produces plays an important role in regulating your normal sleep at night.
Prober conducted his research in the same lab that the late Caltech biologist Seymour Binzer used to pioneer studies of the circadian clock, our body's mechanism for responding to environmental cues such as darkness and light.
Seymour actually started many different areas of study, and for our purposes, one of the most important things he studied was the genetic analysis of circadian rhythms. And so he performed the first screen for genes that regulate rhythms, and he did this in flies. Seymour Benzer's lab is actually in the same lab space where my lab is now, which is a very special thing for us, and it's very gratifying that he began studies to understand the genetics of the circadian clock, and now we're studying the genetics of how the circadian clock regulates sleep.
Now that they know that melatonin has a role in determining whether we sleep at night, Prober and his team want to look at how exactly it works.
And so what we'll be doing is looking at genes or neurons that are required for melatonin to regulate sleep at night.
Learn more about this and other groundbreaking research from Caltech by visiting caltech.edu.